Welcome in, everybody, to Inside the Burrow. We are back with a transfer portal update edition, kind of a special edition, but it's not really special anymore, Drew. It's the way of the world here in college sports across the board. Zach Kitley has attacked the transfer portal diligently, working to replace some lost pieces, but also just retool. I think we'll get into it. I think he's done a fine job. But Drew Shula, welcome back to the program. My good friend hopping in for this one. How's it going?
It's going, that's for sure. Fun to keep up with the transfer portal the last few weeks. Basketball, not so much of a basketball episode, but they've been really fun the last few games. A lot of fun football, the national championship coming up. So going to miss this college football season, but we'll be super excited for next one. We're going to talk a lot about the transfer class that was brought in. It's entertaining to say the least when you could bring in 26, 27-ish, new players, and they're all signed within 2 weeks. So a lot of fun to watch that, and we're going to talk about it. It's going to be very different, but that's normal nowadays.
There you go. Drew, you said it at the beginning there. You said it's going. I feel like a lot of our Northeast viewers can kind of relate to you. Are you de-thawing it? Are you de-thawing yet? Or are you still ice cold frozen up there in the Northeast?
Today was 50 degrees, so
okay.
People up at the Northeast will call that a nice day. I won't go that far because I lived in Boca Raton for 4 years, so I won't call that a nice day, but I'll call it a nicer day than what the typical cold winter is like. But maybe that's why some of these players took a trip down south to Boca Raton to come to FAU. Right now is the perfect time to recruit them, that's for sure.
We'll get into it. We've got some players coming down to FAU from LIU, Villanova, across the board. I'm sure they'll enjoy the warm weather. But yes, folks, Drew's back remote in New Jersey, so he's enjoying the cold weather, like so many of you owls who have moved across the country. But diving back into it, I agree with you, Drew. I think honestly, with the way in terms of losses, right? They didn't really get rated like a team who, didn't have a great season. There was still talent across the board. You could see that. That's a team in today's world where if you don't have a culture, if you don't have anything to kind of grasp onto, obviously you need NIL too. I'm not naive here. And that goes to show you that Brian White, the athletic department, and obviously Zach Kitley and his staff have done a good job of managing this NIL and also kind of creating that culture to where, you have a rough year, but you sell enough of a vision with a dollar sign attached as well, and you can retain your talent. And I think we saw that. Obviously, Caden staying is something else. People on trolls on social media, Kevin and I have talked about this. I don't think that judging him off some, interceptions at times last year, the amount of volume in that offense, I think there's enough good to where, there was definitely a power program going after him, and to get Messer back as well to pair up with him, I think those are two big additions that are obviously the high level or retentions. Those are the high level ones. But you look at one to me, Drew, in terms of retention, right? The biggest one to me, Vinny Fiacable. I mean, come on now, Drew. You almost lost your starting center, and that's that goes under the radar. But there's a lot of chemistry that goes on there. Vinny kind of helps that whole line go, but he also has that relationship with Caden as well. And you got to put in a new center in there, while you're also going to have some new offensive line pieces. I think that, to me, before we get into the transfer portal additions, retention wise, obviously Cade and Easton are the high level ones, but getting Vinny back out of the portal when there were surely some folks trying to get him back to the Big Ten potentially, that's a big one, Drew. What do you think?
Yeah, and I'm biased because I've golfed with him a few times, but yeah, Vinny's a good dude. Players love him. I think there's potential that he could even move to guard, which might be a more natural position for him. And then they could have a center that they've been liking for the last 2 years, Braden Cunningham, potentially stepping in at center. But yeah, you don't want to lose starting linemen ever unless you force them out. And they most definitely were not forcing Vinny Cable out. So bringing him back and having two of your former linemen back is really big. So, and he was a good one too. I mean, lineman grades are always weird and annoying, but if you were to go to any website, he graded out well for a lineman. Penalty wise, wasn't really an issue. Pass protection, I think, was probably his strength, and a good leader. So yeah, I think that was a big addition. It's a good shout, Robbie, on a underrated guy that got brought back.
On the defensive side of the ball, there's retention kind of at all levels. But I think, you get the double whammy of CJ Doggett and Wilkie Denaud kind of collab post there, both of them coming back at the same time. Leon Hart Jr. is a guy who had a solid enough year to where he probably could have gotten some offers. That's a big retention to me as well. Defensively, Drew, anyone else stand out to you besides those two or Leon?
That got brought back, I'd probably say, Leon and CJ were probably the two big ones for me. I like Wilkie a lot too, but I think those two were probably the most impactful players on the defense last year. CJ was legit. I think he had 5 sacks, and that's only in 12 games. And, you translate that to an NFL schedule. I mean, that's 7.5, 8 sacks. That's a guy that's getting paid a lot of money in free agency in the NFL. Leon was a stud. I think he was our best linebacker last year. He's fast. He could cover. He could hit. It's kind of all you need for a linebacker who was smart. He's from the area, so they were able to bring him back. Probably say Damon Allen and Chris Tooley. Those are two guys that could play all over the secondary. I think they like him at nickel. So if they just wanted to rotate those two at nickel, I think that could be really good. We're going to talk more about the secondary guys that were brought in, but I think there's so much versatility. They don't even know where some players are going to play in the secondary. They probably have a plan, but there's going to be a lot of moving pieces back there. But yeah, I think you touched the retainment guys on defense. Those are the big ones, in my opinion. A lot more depth scattered around too. They really didn't lose a whole lot, and and they needed to bring back guys because they just weren't good last year. That's not a secret at all. Like 130th ranked defense, not going to cut it this year at all. So excited to see. They should definitely make a big jump, in my opinion. If they don't, I'd be shocked.
Yeah, I 100%. And, special teams, that's probably where the least retention is. You lose your kicker and punter, but you do keep your punt returner. So we'll see how that kind of shapes out next year. Long snapper, holder, all that stuff. That'll have to get reevaluated. But, we'll get into the additions. Coach Scove's got some new pieces to work with. But getting into the additions, quarterback wise, you lose your super senior, basically a coach on the field in Zach Gibson. He is trying to be a coach. I did see that.
I saw that too.
And so that's a cool story for Zach. Just wanted to shout that out. But they did go and replace him in the transfer portal. Drew Develer comes over from Rice. And I heard some rumblings. I heard some rumblings of a Rice quarterback, and I was like, are they going to go get Chase Jenkins? And are we going to have some trickery going on? But no, it's Drew Develer, 6'5", Texas-based quarterback. Very kind of similar-ish build, a little skinnier than Caden. I haven't seen much tape from him at Rice. Saw a little bit of the high school film. It's kind of tough to look at high school film and compare that because he's hopefully going to be developed by the time he sees the field in an FAU uniform. But between Drew and Jordan Magwood, Drew, that's we're here in the present, but that's also the future, and it's college sports. I still like to think that way, and I think one of those two guys potentially could be the future after Caden graduates this year, his final year of eligibility. Drew, you like the addition of Drew?
Yeah, I'd be remiss not to say I didn't like it. Drew being brought into the program. But also, you talk about the future. I don't think they make this move unless they thought he was ready to back up Caden now. I think that's fair because you're not going to bring in a backup quarterback that is not ready to take over when your quarterback's coming off surgery. And last year, Gibson had to play at times. So he had a pretty good 2.47 grade. Take that for what it's worth coming out of high school. He's big, so clearly there's something. Anytime there's a quarterback with size, you definitely want to bank on those traits and kind of, bank on the upside. Coach Kitley, Coach Trent Vasey, they're definitely, they're quarterback guys at heart. So hopefully they do their best to develop him. He is a future piece, but he's got to be ready now, unless Jordan Magwood is ready to step in fully to a backup role, which we'll see. I mean, one of those two has to, basically, unless there's another guy, there is on the roster that makes a massive jump. But yeah, I do like the addition of Drew. So that one should be pretty exciting to see how that plays out.
It's got a half decent name, I will say. I think you might agree with that one, but somebody's got to be ready to back him up. Unfortunately, as we heard this season, he was dealing with an injury. He played through it, and hopefully, nothing like that happens again. But you got to have a backup. You've all seen the commercial, and so hopefully they get that figured out in camp. I like this though from a journalist sense. The only quarterback battle we have to figure out for the second consecutive year is who's going to be the backup. There's no starting quarterback battle that lingers on into the midweek press conference prior to week one. Well, that'll be wrapped up.
Yeah, it's been annoying the last few years, to say the least. I mean, I'm dating back to 2023, when we didn't know who the quarterback was for the Monmouth game until a week before. We got a franchise guy.
There you go. Could be an all-time owl there at the quarterback. We'll see. Don't want to get too ahead of ourselves, but that's pretty much it for the quarterback room. I don't think we'll see any more additions. Maybe a walk-on. Michael Valentino still might be hanging around in there. Carson Kruger did hit the transfer portal. I think between those guys, I think that'll be it. We might, like I said, though.
They got the high school kid, Jeremiah. He's young. I mean, I don't have any expectations for a true freshman to do anything at quarterback for us anytime soon.
No, but he is the lucky lefty, so I like that. Get some spice in the quarterback room. It's not all righties, Jeremiah, dude. So we'll see what he can provide as a freshman coming in. We got that's Kitley's first FAU freshman quarterback, so we'll see what he sees there. And I think he had a pretty good year out in California this year. So I think, or in Texas, excuse me. And so I think. I think he'll be ready to go. He transferred up a level. I'm blanking on the school name right now, but yeah.
Who are you talking about?
Quarterback.
Who transferred up a level?
Jeremiah Dowd.
Oh yeah, I think it was like Allen, Texas. I believe that.
Yeah, that is it. Thank you, Drew. But yeah, we have I don't want to get too deep into the high school recruiting right now. We have a whole episode on that, and I might, like I said, I might forget something. I'm not perfect, but like
that's why I'm here, Rob.
Exactly. Drew's got our back. Yeah. But yeah, between him as well in that quarterback room, I think that's about it. And so yeah, I like the addition of Drew Develer, and I'm pretty sold on that room as a whole. We'll see how they develop the youngins in there. Caden's like the master sensei at this point. But shifting over to the running back room, some departures there for sure. Xavier Terrell, Jamari Sands, both out the door. But KSD looks to remain. Ethan Irvin looks to remain. And so, they bring in Leonard Farrow from Fairmont State, but there is no transfer portal running back addition yet, Drew. Jamari Sands was a new addition to the transfer portal a couple days ago. So, I am wondering, I think they need at least two running backs, in this class coming up. And they've the transfer portal does close in 3 days, doesn't close for additions. So that's only going to be new guys going into it. So hopefully KSD stays. That gives you, a little bit of a kind of rock to build around with Ethan Irvin. But as we saw this year, I do think running backs, probably the room I think they need to address the most here throughout the rest of the offseason. What do you think?
Yeah, injuries at the running back room are the most common football injuries, especially that we're used to. I mean, dating back to, years ago, we've always had pretty solid running back rooms, but, all it takes is, a little bit of wear and tear, especially in the college game where they run so many plays. It's hard to stay fresh. We saw last year Sands got hurt and he didn't really look the same when he came back. He wasn't really able to run people over. It was kind of a little more timid. And then Terrell was pretty much out the whole year. Luckily, I think we bring our best guy back because I thought KSD was our best guy, just the most physical, strong, can kind of do it all. He's not the greatest pass catcher, but he's good enough to do it. And I think FAU being a top D2 guy is nice. Hopefully, Ethan Irvin, in theory, takes a step up. That's kind of something you're banking on due to the development and the numbers in the room. But yeah, you're right. I mean, minimum one more addition right now. And then in the next upcoming high school classes and all that, they need to address the position. We're never really going to spend the most on running back as a air raid, program right now. But you still need good backs. I mean, we saw even in I don't know if you definitely remember. I mean, that UConn game when Caden ended up bringing in that read option at the end, we ran the ball every play. I mean, because when you can run it down someone's throat, that helps you win football games. So regardless of us being kind of a pass first air raid offense, they need backs, good backs. So excited to see, hopefully they bring in one other guy that can contribute. We've had good success in the portal with CJ Campbell, someone like that being brought in. So excited. Hopefully, Pharaoh's legit. I'm excited for him too. Hopefully he has like a lightning kind of aspect to it because KSD hits so hard and he's like a thunder guy. So I like that duo. And hopefully one more good guy gets brought in.
100%. And, don't disvalue Leonard Farrow. He was one of the top backs in all of Division II. Yeah, I think everyone knows what Trinidad Chambliss just did for Ole Miss. So don't devalue what he just did at Fairmont State. He could very well be a big-time contributor back next year. So we'll see. We'll see, though, who they also bring in, a physical guy maybe like KSD or a receiving back maybe. Somebody that's like, I grew up. I grew up with Darren Sproles.
Sproles. Yeah.
I don't think a Darren Sproles is spawning here at FAU, but who knows? That type of back though would be an interesting addition and could help kind of alleviate. You could get KSD off the field with a guy like that. But they also have Ethan Irvin in there as well, who I think could be in for some more touches this year as well. He had to play probably more than they expected last year at times. So we'll see what they do here over the next couple weeks. But kind of shifting over to the wide receiver room, I think, Drew, this was where we saw a lot of additions. You go Jamari Powell-Watson from Maryland, RJ Garcia of Bowling Green. Bowling Green? Bowling Green. Tucker Holloway of Virginia Tech, Kelby Velson of Texas Tech, and so those four guys right there, Drew. I think we'll see about Jamari Powell-Watson and potentially Kelby Velson. Both those guys haven't gotten a ton of playing time, and really, Tucker Holloway hasn't either. But the one I'm high on the most, and I think a lot of FAU fans could, see be a contributor next season is RJ Garcia. With Jay-Sean Platt-Assad was seen gone, there's a ton of catches to go around. Easton Messer back there in the slot. He's going to be commanding receptions. Dom Henry, he's going to be in for a big role. Brandon Hoke, he'll be in for a big role. But I think RJ Garcia finds himself in a role as well. And obviously, there's familiarity there with Kelby and Kitley from Texas Tech. Tucker Holloway, 6'2", 185. He got some run at Virginia Tech. 13 catches, 149 yards. Also had a 33-yard rushing touchdown. So could be a guy they do some trickery with. So we'll see what they do with that. But Drew, what's your thoughts on the wide receiver additions? I know they had a couple JUCO guys as well back in that class.
Yeah.
In terms of this in this class, what do you like so far?
I think you hit the nail on the head. I mean, all four guys you mentioned could, we'll see. We always have to see what happens during camp. Who's a good fit? Who's really translating? Been working well with Caden and can get open. I think that's the big thing. Can you separate? Because size can only take you so far. Who knows the playbook? All that. I think all four can play. So we'll see which one really works out. I do like Tucker Holloway a lot. He's got the size. He did get some runs at Virginia Tech. Let me see what else. RJ Garcia I thought looked really good on his film. I know the numbers weren't fully there, but numbers in college are really scheme and coachability and how much playing time you get. I mean, he looked good. He was moving well on film, and I remember seeing an old clip of him at he's an older player, RJ. Older clip of him at Kansas State catching a touchdown pass from Will Howard in a big game. So I thought that was pretty funny. But yeah, no, I mean, experience is a great thing to have. We don't want only be playing 19, 20-year-olds. Give me the experience. So but yeah, our receiver room is just full of a bunch of studs. I mean, we already have 2 back, and Brandon Hope can end up being 1. Messer and Dom are awesome, and we just got to make sure we find the right guys. I mean, all you need is basically 2 of them to work out. So can you go 2 for 4? If you go 4 for 4, your room's really loaded. So yeah, we just need a few guys to step in, and I think we have those guys.
Yeah, you mentioned it. RJ played 3 seasons at Kansas State prior to Bowling Green. Yeah, look at Indiana. They got a bunch of old players. Obviously, they
old is good. Old is very good.
Exactly, and obviously they had connections with Cignetti and led them to where they're at. But veteran players are good. Wendell Fullord last couple of years, I mean, his value cannot be overrated. To have a player with his kind of knowledge in that secondary and experience, right? Nothing beats experience. So I'm interested to see.
How about Alex Akavich, man? He was recruited to FAU by Willie Taggart, man. The experience worked out. He got to start his senior year, and he was good when he played. He unfortunately got hurt. So, yeah, experience. Give me all that experience.
I know. Shout out Alex. Shout out Fetty Moranches, too. He was
Federico is great. He's in the playoffs now.
Owl in the playoffs, indeed, Drew. But yeah, shout out all the Owl alumni. But kind of shifting gears a little bit, tight end room. Last year was up and down, right? I think with some games we saw Mike Kirch look like the Mike Kirch who produced at St. Thomas More. Unfortunately, that didn't translate really throughout the season. We didn't really see much production from some of the other tight ends on the roster, Martavis Collins, Temez Young. I'm blanking.
Reed McKeska.
Thank you. So they made a couple of additions in the transfer portal. Brooks Johnson from Coastal Carolina had some playing time last year. 26 games played across his career, 105 yards and 12 receptions. Antonio Johnson from Villanova. I think that's a guy. Villanova just went into the FCS playoffs, had one of their best years in quite a long time. Across his career, he's got 29 receptions, 331 yards, and 6 scores. 6'4", 260. So I'm sure he's a capable blocker. At least I hope so. And so between those 2 guys, I expect those 2 to probably give you a bulk of the production. You got Mayberry as well from the JUCO level that they added a couple of weeks ago. But Brooks at 6'5", 235. Antonio at 6'4", 260. I like their frames. Both come in with experience at FCS is like D2, like we mentioned. Good ball. Can be found at any level. Antonio is a contributor, and Brooks in sparring time at Coastal Carolina has gotten playing time as well. I want to see the tight end room be involved in this offense next season, Drew. I feel like that's an area of the offense that was, not unlocked at times. I'm not going to say lacking. I just don't think it was used a lot at times. Do you think the personnel that they've added kind of allow that this year?
Yeah, I think I do think the personnel is improved, and you do need the personnel to kind of unlock that phase. And last year, no offense to the guys, I just don't think they had it. I know Kirch got hurt too, so that doesn't help. And then after that, you didn't have a guy you could really throw to. I don't think they threw once any of the other guys. So more depth. I know they have the high schooler they like too, Owen Pollock. So yes. We've started true freshmen before. And at tight ends, just a few years ago, Zeke Moore was catching touchdowns for the Owls, and he did well for himself. But yeah, I mean, Brooks, I was able to say he had one huge catch against Virginia. I saw on his Instagram, and we don't need. It was like Odell level, like a very impressive catch. I think I posted it on my Twitter, so you guys could look at that. We don't need that. We just need consistency. But if you could do that, like, oh man, like this could be a lot of fun, this tight end room. I know Antonio, AJ Johnson, from Villanova. He's someone that the staff like. I mean, he's huge, 6'4", 260. That's a full size tight end. That's not a Jonnu Smith, a little smaller tight end. That's legit. That's huge. That's 260 right there. That's full size. So yeah, I mean, I still don't think the tight ends are, the most is the true strength of the team, and will it ever be? I'm not sure. But if they could block, hold up well enough, and they could be a good enough receiving possession tight end, that's all we need. And I do think it could be a step up from next year. So we'll see about that. Maybe even the freshman gets involved.
Yeah, Owen Pollock from Ohio. If that was an early commit for Kit, and he's held her on. Had a good year. Big Spruce, Ohio, something like that. And like you mentioned, not too long ago, Zeke Moore. So anything's possible in that tight end room. I feel like if he comes in there and shows right away he's capable, anything's possible. But yeah, I think if that part of the offense gets unlocked, it only helps kind of take some of the pressure off of Easton Messer in the slot, opens things up for him as well. So moving on, though, offensive line. As I mentioned, the retention. I mentioned Vinny via cable. Looks like Jakavian Nonar will be back as well. Braden Cunningham, who was a bit more of a depth piece last year, potentially could be in for a bigger role next year. You do lose Scarlett Jean, who was arguably your best offensive lineman last year. You lose Alex Atkovich, and you lose Daughtry Richardson as well. But Drew, they've made multiple additions across the board. You got two tackles, Aiden Jones and Cortez Winslow, Ben Galloway as well from Georgia Tech. He's a big piece. I believe he's a guard, though. Drew, overall, though, with the offensive line additions you get retention plus some solid addition in there. What'd you like with the offensive line addition so far?
Yeah, based on what I kind of know and under my assumption, I'm under the assumption that we bring back the same left tackle, Jakavian Nonar. Via Cable comes back and it's a real possibility he actually gets moved to guard, just based on his team need, but also kind of playing style and body type and all that. Maybe more of a more natural kind of wider guy. And then Cunningham ends up competing for Braden Cunningham ends up competing for the center spot. I was under the impression of that. And then Akil Meredith Smith. So he's from Long Island. He's a guard that can compete for the guard spot, as well as Aiden Jones. He can play both tackle or guard and play. And he's from VMI. And then Cortez, I liked his name, Cortez Big Tez Winslow. He could play both positions as well. But he's 6'3", so I'd imagine he's more of a guard than a tackle. He was a Southland All-Conference team, though. And Phil Smith, the freshman All-American team who does a lot of those college rankings. And then Ben Galloway was a big get for FAU. I know the staff was very happy to get him. He comes from Georgia Tech, who, if you know anything about Georgia Tech football, kind of forever, they've had great O-line play. But these past few years, excellent O-line play. They're able to run the ball at will on teams with that offense that they've been running the last few years. Their offensive coordinator went to Florida, so a lot of Florida fans actually were very interested in Ben Galloway coming. So Galloway, I think, is going to be the starting right tackle who, if you remember last year, Scarlett Jean had to play right tackle towards the end of the year, and he actually played right tackle really well, but he's gone. So I think that Galloway is the plan at right tackle is what I'd imagine. So we'll see. I mean, it just ends up being, is Galloway going to be a stud like we think he can be at tackle, and then who steps up at guard, whether it's someone on roster already or one of those transfers. So we'll see. I mean, sometimes competition isn't the worst thing. You're not going to be able to, pluck a bunch of starters all the time and know who's going to start. So we'll see how it ends up playing out, but that's kind of what I expect. There should be enough competition to be serviceable, at least.
I think the addition of Galloway is definitely big. I think he steps in as starter capable right away. I'm a big retention guy, though. it was well documented. Jacavian Nonar did struggle at times last year, but it is possible that retention, something that in college sports gets ignored a lot of times. You develop in that same system, and you fix those mistakes. I think that's what that has to happen. And I think if that does happen, I think we could see a really productive year from him at left tackle, that blindside role. And Vinny at center potentially, or is he? Did you say he might move positions?
I think it's a real possibility he moves to guard. Yeah.
And that, and Braden, he was competing for that role last year as well. So there's options, which at the G5 level, there's no guarantees you have options on the offensive line. So I think they did a good job making retainments on the offensive line that can go ignored, or it could just be really difficult. It could be really difficult to do that. So kudos to the staff for the retention, and I think the additions as well, like you mentioned, majority will have a chance to compete for a starting role, which is what you want. But moving over to the defensive side of the ball, started with the edge rushers. You get a pair of them. You get Javian Crable from Ohio and Jonathan Bax from TCU. Crable comes over from Ohio just like CJ Doggett last year, and he comes over with production as well. 20 career games, 35 tackles, 8 tackles for loss with 6 sacks. And he was all MAC second team in 2025. So, getting some production off the edge has been an issue over the last couple of years at times. I think last year, there was more production as the season went on. You lose Eric Brantley. He had some production. I believe he had a pair of sacks, but you bring back Wilkie Dowd. You keep Josh Roberts, and you add a guy in Crable who has production. And Jonathan Bax as well has 25 career games with a sack, 2 forced fumbles, and 20 tackles. So they're both with some playing time. And you keep Wilkie and Josh, like I mentioned. Is this the year, Drew, where the FAU pass rush returns to the level of old? I feel like pass rush was FAU's biggest strength defensively during the Lane era and earlier.
Yeah, I hope. You bring back probably your 3 best edge rushers, your best D tackle. It's got to be this year, right? That's the start. The defense was not good enough last year, and I think the pass rush wasn't there. Hoping this year it really is. They did bring in some guys, Blake Burris, LeBron Edmond, and Corey Clark.
The interior too.
Yeah, two of them are P4 guys. And then at edge, not as many edge rusher additions. Crable, you talked about. He actually, I think, could be set for a big role. So that's exciting. Bax from TCU didn't play as much, but yeah, probably less additions. But that's because we already had the guys in. So and then the JUCO guy too. Is it not Crawford? I'm forgetting the name. Shoot, hold on. I have to find this.
You did this to yourself. I said.
Yeah, Kenyon Garner was a good JUCO guy that they're really high on. So just need you need development of the young guys. Gavin Schmarcelin played a lot last year and he got better. He definitely got better. He didn't play the year before as much. So excited about him. Hopefully Wilkie takes even one more step to being a real legit American Conference pass rusher. I think they got the horses, so we just got to make them. We got to make them run.
My retention piece, Josh Roberts.
Roberts, true. I completely forgot about that.
Him.
Embarrassing miss by me.
Have solid freshman seasons, and somebody notices that. Somebody with more money than you notices that, and can throw him money just because. And they're keeping these guys. And I don't know. I don't know for sure that all this is happening, but that's the way of the world in college now. And so. He had a good season last year. I'm excited to see what he can do this year, potentially in a bit of an expanded role. And you mentioned the guys on the interior. That's where kind of the losses were. Bryce Langston, he graduates. and Najon Barber, he graduates. So that opens up some room there. Blake Burris from SMU, 12 career games up there, or across there. And so I think he'll be a guy who could potentially come in and play, a former 3-star, 6'5", 308. So he's a big enough dude that in this, I think he can come in and kind of fill a cog there for sure. And Corey Clark from Mississippi State as well with 13 career games, another former 3-star. So 6'4", 310. Both those guys on the interior, probably you look to fill Langston's role from last year. I hope the pass rush is returning to the level of old. That's what I mentioned there. It improved as the season went on, and I think that's kind of what intrigued me and showed me that Dewhurst is definitely making adjustments on the fly. The pass rush got better throughout the season. The run defense got better at times, and then it stalled out. But they made the right retentions, and they also made the right additions there to hopefully kind of jumpstart that room. But moving up a level, linebacker, you keep Leon Hart, as I mentioned. That's a big one, but you lose Tyler Stolsky. You do keep Kamari Johnson and Zaire Horton, 2 depth guys who potentially could see more playing time this year. But in the transfer portal, Drew, you bring in Joseph Sipp, who a guy they were trying to go after him from Bowling Green. And then he went to Kansas, didn't have the best year last year. I believe he got hurt, correct?
He got hurt right away.
He got hurt.
He was set for a big year.
And
I actually watched a video Locked on Kansas, and they said that Joseph Sipp was their best returning defender. So I think that speaks volumes for the level of linebacker we just got.
There you go. And I believe there was common interest there from last season. And so, he opts to go back into the transfer portal after the injury. And I think, him and Leon Hart there in the interior, I think, as long as health-wise, he's back to 100%, don't see a reason why not. I think that's a real solid addition there. And otherwise, I like Kamari Johnson to be my big retention piece alongside Leon Hart. Showed last year he could step up and play when needed. I think between those 3 guys, you've got enough depth in that linebacker room alongside Zaire Horton. You kind of mentioned it there with Joe Sipp, Drew. But to me, that Joe Sipp could arguably be one of the biggest defensive additions maybe this year. We'll see. What do you think?
I think him and first of all, I think Sipp, just straight up might be the best player we brought in, and that includes offense, defense, and maybe even in past years. This guy's just straight up a stud. Talent-wise, he was excellent for Bowling Green, and it's why so many schools wanted him. Landed at Kansas, gets hurt. He's legit. This guy, he's a true linebacker. Fast, strong, can do it all. Coverage, run stuffing ability. But enough of Sipp. Nate Fisher, the linebacker from San Diego. This guy is also a do-it-all. And if you could have multiple linebackers, that's dangerous for your defense. You need the depth for one, but 2, you could personnel-wise kind of helps you be more versatile. And Nate Fisher, played at FCS San Diego, but 21 games, he had 111 tackles, 10.5 tackles for loss, 11 pass deflections, 4.5 sacks, a pick. He was doing it all for them. He was a stud in the FCS, and the last stud FCS linebacker we got, Jackson Ambush, ended up being really damn good for FAU. So I think our linebacker room might be the most improved position on our defense, arguably. It might even be the best. Just saying. Maybe a bold take, but I think it's possible.
You mentioned Fisher. I forgot about him, and I remembered as soon as I stopped talking. But I like that addition because that's another guy. Sipp and him both. Sipp had, I believe, 36 career games. Nate Fisher 20-something games. Both these guys. That's 50 games of experience right there.
Mm-hmm.
You don't really beat that. So I tend to agree with you. I do think linebacker, all of a sudden the defense is shaping out. You got new additions on the edge. You got retention. You got new additions in the interior. You got retention. I mean, they're doing everything they can. It's not like they got squad wiped and didn't do enough to retool. But I'm kind of interested to see how it all shapes out. There's a lot of talent in that room, but there's only so many linebacker spots on the field. So I'm interested to see kind of who wins that battle now with Stolsky departed. So moving up though to the secondary. This is where FAU was kind of hit a little bit, Drew. You lose Terez Reed to graduation. You lose Dylan Williams to graduation. You lose Chris Keys to graduation. You lose Demarius McGee to graduation. So
I thought he had a chance coming back. Am I wrong in that regard? Yeah, I thought he had a chance.
I do see him listed here as a redshirt senior. It is
so maybe we just pulled off on that thought, but I thought he was coming back, but I might be wrong. I don't want to feed people wrong info.
Is he coming back? I don't have it. There was no announcement either way.
I'm under the impression he is. So
okay.
Maybe we just iffy, but that would be a good guy.
I'll trust you on this one, Drew. You're our trusty co-host here. I told you I'm not perfect.
I'm definitely not either. So if I'm wrong, I feel really bad. But let's just say he's coming back. But yeah, you're right. I mean,
our focus here is the additions, Drew.
Correct. Yeah.
And there is we were talking about this before. I feel like they've brought in a couple pieces that a Bugs Brown type safety piece, maybe. Drew, what do you like in the secondary so far?
Yeah. There's so many names. I mean, first of all, I think one of my biggest takeaways is that I think cornerback coach Antonio Finellis has a type, and the staff, and they're bringing in some very talented players that just weren't able to play at their last place. The first name I really look into is J.K. Johnson, the cornerback from Oklahoma State, the Cowboys. He actually was able to play. He played in 8 games, and he had 16 tackles, 2 pass deflections. So, but he was playing for Ohio State and LSU, so it just shows, kind of the talent level was definitely there. And now he wants to get a starting spot, and that's why he's here. But other guys, I look at Tyson Rooks, kind of just pops off the page. He's a 6'4", 205, and I think I'm under the impression he plays safety. So I could, maybe he ends up being like our tight end eraser or someone like that could just absolutely lock down a tight end, a big safety like that can hit. Hopefully, maybe that's a role for him. I'll stick with corners. Wallace Foster, he's from LSU, so clearly some talent there. Alston Ware, we talked about Trinidad Shameless, D2. Alston Ware is from Ferris State, which is where Trinidad Shameless is from. He also played a lot for Ferris State, and he chose FAU over Virginia on our notes. He had 111 tackles the last 2 seasons, which is a lot for a corner. He had 5 interceptions, so absolute ball hawk. This guy, he could end up being an absolute gem. We've hit on cornerbacks at the lower levels before. I mean, Terez Reed was playing D2 ball at Grand Valley State and was our best corner last year. So I think Alston Ware can really play. So that's going to be exciting to see. And then the other names, Amar Reynolds, he's also from Illinois. He's probably more of a corner. And yeah, it looks like I think those are the 4 or 5 names we really hit on, unless I'm missing someone. But yeah, I mean, I think there's just a lot of versatility, and we're going to see who ends up playing, who doesn't. There's always so many names with corners. It's hard to kind of say who's going to play unless you bring in one guy that is kind of like an alpha, and he'll end up being a cornerback one. But there's also there's some decent returners from last year. Rogers was good for the most part. I think he got beat once bad against Memphis, but besides that, was pretty good. If McGee is back, that's big. He was a rock all year long. He wasn't getting beat really all that bad. And then the 2 young guys, Tooley and Allen, played in the nickel. So it's exciting. I think safety is the position they really have to hit on. The safety play just wasn't good enough last year, and 2 of the guys are graduating. So hopefully the safeties end up being, big additions.
We'll see. As far as I can tell, let me reconfirm here, but it's not looking like Demarius McGee is listed currently on the 2020.
If so, we need someone to step up then. He was pretty solid. He played more after the non-conference kind of schedule. So more so from like Memphis week on, and he was pretty good.
Eligibility changes by the night. It is possible something changes. Doesn't look like it at the moment. But nevertheless, like you mentioned, they've brought in a variety of different guys who have some versatility to it. I think that'll give Brett Dewhurst some options. I think the secondary for a first-year unit last year, like you mentioned, wasn't it's not like it could have been a lot worse for a first-year secondary with a lot of new additions. So
that's for sure. Yeah.
I think the secondary definitely overall across the board, I think they've done the best they can, right? This is not a program with unlimited money. No team in the American has unlimited money. Unfortunately, for some of the fans out there who may or may not like to believe one or two teams do have that. No one does in the American. Not FAU, not USF, not Memphis, nobody. There is a finite amount of money. And I think Zach Hitley, Taylor Brown, Brian White, all those the collective minds there at the facility do a good job of kind of balancing it, right? They retained their quarterback who had a solid year, their top wide receiver in Easton Messer. You lose two others who had solid years, okay, but you don't get squad wipe. We've talked about the retentions on the defensive side of the ball. You bring back your center, Vinny Villacable. I mean, and then you go in and then you bring in some of these guys who you mentioned, the LSU transfer. I mean, Illinois, and those are just the two at the top of my head. But you're also bringing in guys from the D2 level, right? You look at Leonard Farrow, who had a ton of production, Nate Fisher, who had a ton of production at the FCS level. So they're bringing in talent from across the board, and I think that's how you have to do it, right? The money is not unlimited. You can't just go out and get the top performing guy from an FIU or another CUSA school. You got to go out and find talent elsewhere, and I think they do a good job of doing that between power level bounce backs, FCS level production, and G5 level guys as well who want to get playing time. So I think they did a really good job in this transfer portal. Still a couple spots to be done. Look at running back, especially maybe another move here in the secondary as well. But I don't want to skip out on special teams before we get out of here. You lose your kicker, Garrison Smith, who was arguably, outside of that one we won't mention, he was pretty solid. You bring in Colin Rogers from SMU, and then you also lose Logan Lupo, who he's been your punter for a while now, looking back on it, and your kicker. But you bring in Shanley as well from Georgia State. He averaged 45.8 yards per punt on 31 punts last season. I believe it was a
school record.
I believe he received all Sun Belt nominee as well. So you bring in two guys with some experience. I believe Colin Rogers does have some experiences at SMU. So
I talked to someone from SMU. I know he said the situation with Rogers. He was playing a lot for them. He was a veteran guy, and then his senior year, I guess the coaching staff kind of got a little impatient. And he had one rough game against Baylor, and he didn't play the rest of the year. So we could take that for what it's worth. I mean, he was making a lot of kicks before that. And he was a starter for them when they were in the college football playoffs. So, talent, clearly. We just got to make sure he's on the right track and everything, and it could end up being a steal.
We'll see. I don't know who will be the long snapper. I don't know who will be the holder. We'll find that out in spring camp in a couple of months. I don't have that information for you. I don't think Drew has it for you either. Maybe if you rub a genie in a bottle 3 times, you ask him who's going to be the long snapper for FAU, he might have that answer for you.
If you care that much,
don't wait. Yeah, if you want to waste one of your 3 wishes on who's FAU's long snapper, shout out to you. You definitely be watching this show if you were that person. But that kind of closes it out on portal editions. Like I mentioned, there may be a couple more here over the next couple of days. Basketball is on the rise as well. Drew, back-to-back wins over UAB and Memphis. We'll do a separate basketball episode here next week after a pivotal 2-game swing against Wichita State and Temple. But brief thoughts. What have you liked with hoops over the last couple of weeks since the loss to Tulane?
Yeah, I mean, they won a close one, and we've never won at Bartow Arena
Nope.
against UAB, so that was awesome. I mean, I feel like there's been so many times where the team just went up points. So I'm thinking UAB. I mean, not UAB. I'm thinking Tulane. They went up and lost. UCF. They went up and lost. There's probably a few others. I think Bonaventure might have had a lead and all that, but too many times where we had leads and then just blew it. This time was different. I mean, UAB, they got the lead. Slowly, they're creeping back, UAB, but they shut the door, FAU, and they closed out with a big win in Bartow Arena. And then they were only 1.5-point favorites against Memphis. And they crushed them straight up. Like, they broke their will. They were extremely efficient. We're going to turn the ball over when we're playing so fast, but I mean, they really, they wanted it clearly more. Penny Hardaway said it. John Jacobs said it. I mean, when you're all those blocks and all those offensive rebounds, second chance points, getting fouled in big moments, hustle for the ball. That was one of the better games they played all year. It's interesting too. I think Memphis, I mean, this is not the same team we played in the past. Like, just side note, I mean, they had no offense. And then on the defensive end, they struggled as well. So it's just good. We took a leap. They took a step back. That's what you want to see. For us, you want your conference mates to be good, but we want to jump our conference mates as well. So that was pretty cool to see. Hopefully we string together more wins. We can't revert back to being talented enough to get leads and then blowing it. But yeah, it's a good step. The last 2 games were awesome.
There you go. And so you place Wichita State 9 p.m. at home on Thursday. ESPN, big time, not number 2, not the U, the 1, ESPN, channel 33 on Xfinity here in the 561 area, I believe. It's been a while since I actually typed that in. But and then you go up to Temple on Sunday for a noon Sunday matinee. And then you come back home next Wednesday, the 21st of January, and you get your rematch with Tulane.
That's big.
That's a big one right there at home in the LE Wednesday night. That'll be a big game. This next 3-game stretch right here, you got 2 winnable ones in front of you in Wichita State and Temple. And then that game right there, you beat Tulane, all of a sudden every national outlet is going to have to start looking at you because you become near the top of the team in the American Conference. And they would have had proven themselves. I mean, you beat UAB, you beat Memphis, you beat Tulane, you beat Temple, you beat Wichita State. At that point, then you look towards the matchup with USF that following Saturday. That becomes an even more pivotal matchup. Pivotal matchups left and right in the American Conference. Shout out to Kanan Carlisle, American Conference Player of the Week. And Devin Vanderpool keeps on hooping. He had a double-double with 12 points and 10 boards in a win over Memphis. Lots to like with basketball. We'll get into that more next week here on Inside the Borough. Folks, thank you so much for tuning in. We'll be back here next week with more on hoops and maybe some more on football. The portal never sleeps. For Drew Shula, I'm Robbie LaStella, and always, shout out to Rick Henderson, folks.
Yep, shout out Rick.
Can't get out of here without a shout out to Rick Henderson. Save the best for last, of course. Rick is the producer here on Inside the Borough. Also, he's the man behind the graphics that you see on FAU Owl's Nest. He keeps you informed. He keeps me informed. Keeps himself informed, too. But shout out to Rick for all he does here on Inside the Borough. We wouldn't be here without him. So shout out to Rick. Shout out to Drew. Until next time, I'm Robbie LaStella right here on Inside the Borough. We'll see you soon.